Okay, today we're starting a new lesson. I think we've done quite a bit of review on this concept already, so hopefully this is pretty familiar to you. We're going to be using the function, you guessed it, y equals mx plus b. Please hold all your groans. Okay, so let's just do a really quick review of what all of these things represent. This lesson focuses a lot on word problems and, I guess, real-life applications. So that means we're going to have to be paying attention to what they tell us in the word problem and figure out what that means in terms of this particular function here. So for y equals mx plus b, I know that b represents a y-intercept, but also in a word problem it represents any starting value. I also have to remember that b can be positive or negative. If the starting value is like you're at a specific height or you're 5 feet above the ground, that means that b will be positive. But if you start with a loss, so let's say that a problem tells you that you start with a debt of $50, or if it costs you something, that's going to be a negative b value. Meanwhile, we know that m represents the slope. However, in a word problem, that's also going to mean like a rate of change. So a higher slope or a higher m value will mean that something is changing faster. So let's say that a problem says that these formulas represent your gain of money per week, and x is weeks. So just by looking at this, if you can write the formula out and see that the slope of your friend's equation is greater than the slope of your equation, right away you know that your friend is gaining money more quickly than you. Also, your friend is making $2 a week more than you are, because 10 minus 8 is 2. Okay, let's continue. We also know that x represents our input. Another way of saying that is our independent variable. An independent variable means something that affects the outcome that is controllable in general by you. However, time is almost always an input because you can't really change time. You can't go backwards in time. Time just moves on. So we generally classify time as an x value. So in all of these problems, if you see time, that's going to be your input. Y represents your output or your dependent variable. We say it's dependent because it depends on what you put in here for x. So y is affected, or the output is affected by whatever we put in here. And we're going to do an example of the type of word problem you're going to see in your homework so that you can figure out what that means. Real quick, another note that you should take, if your slope is positive, that means you're gaining. And if your slope is negative, that means you're losing. So keep that in mind. Again, we're going to do the example where you and your friend are saving money. Okay, so let's say that an example of our problem is this. You and your friend want to buy a house that costs $20. Your money is represented over here by this equation on the graph, and your friend's money is represented by this equation here. So in this case, one of the situations is represented in a graph, and the other one is represented by an equation. So we also know that y represents our money, and x represents weeks. So let's say that the first part of our problem wants to know who is saving money faster, you or your friend. So in the case of your friend, you can actually just look at the rate of change, or m, to find that your friend is saving $4 per week. However, you have just a graph, and so we don't actually know how much you're saving a week. We need to find the rate of change, or the value of m, for this graph over here. So how we're going to do that? Okay, this point here is 0, 2, and this one is 4, 8. Those are both nice points on our graph that we can use to solve. So what we can do is pull out our formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 in order to find the slope or the rate of change. So filling in those values, you can say y2 minus y1 is 8 minus 2 all over x2 minus x1, which is 4 minus 0, and we're going to get 6 over 4. Okay, so that simplifies to become 3 over 2. So if that is the m, or the slope for you, then you know that you're saving money way less quickly than your friend. So you are only saving $1.50 per week. So your friend is obviously saving money faster. Let's just go ahead and write an equation for you so that we can use that to answer the next part of the question that will be coming up. You know that your slope is $1.50. So for you, your equation will be y is equal to $1.50 times the input. Now we have to find our starting value in order to put in our plus b, which we know if we go up here and look, our starting value, the y-intercept where the blue graph crosses the y-axis, is 2. So we know that plus b is just plus 2. So there's the equation for u. So now, let's go ahead and get rid of all of this so we can answer our second question. Okay, the second part of the question is going to ask, how many weeks will it take you each to be able to save for a house? Okay, so here it's saying we need to know how long it will take us to save $20, both you and your friend. So we know that $20 here, is that an input or an output? Well, our problem tells us that money is our output while time is our input. So we're just going to go ahead and label this as y. It's an output. So we've already created a formula for you, and the problem already gave us a formula for your friend. So we can actually use those formulas to find how many weeks, or the value of x, it will take for us to get to $20. Let's start with you. We know that $20 is an output, so we're going to plug 20 in for y in order to see how long it will take us. So when y is 20, we're saying, what is x? So here we can just SAD map in order to get x by itself. And we will find that for you, it will take you 12 weeks in order to save $20. Let's do the same thing now for your friend. Your friend's equation is y is equal to 4x minus 3. And we need to do the exact same thing and say, okay, same output, let's find what x is for your friend. So you can see I've plugged in 20 again on the left for y, just like I did with this equation over here. And now I can simply solve. And you will get x is equal to 5.75. So from this, you can see that your friend will take 5.75 weeks to save for $20. It will take your friend 5.75 weeks, while it will take you 12. So I know that this is a lot, and we've been going over y equals mx plus b for a long time. But in reality, you're just really practicing, identifying what the word problem is giving you, filling in your known values, and interpreting each one. If it's m, that's a rate. If it's b, that's a starting value. You may need to break out your notes from finding slope, y-intercept. You may need to review your y2 minus y1